Hello, revolutionary thinking. I am here with Nathan Lee Miller Foster, is that correctly? And he is someone who is into Freemasonry, which is pretty fascinating. Yes, I can see that. And so what I heard about there are all sorts of like conspiracy theories near Freemasonry and of the like. But I mean, before I even knew about it or heard about it, I was very complacent towards it. Kind of like, okay, that exists and it's there, but I really don't know what it is. So I guess, but through speaking to him in the autonomy course, it's actually pretty fascinating, and he seems like a guy. A lot of conspiracies towards Freemasonry is that they want to control people and they want to use people and finances to their advantage. But getting to know Nathan, that's actually the opposite. He just seems like a very friendly person who wants the best for humanity, and I think the best for kind of like all people. He's very kind, compassionate, and caring, and I enjoy being around people like that, and I enjoy talking to people like that. So yeah, Nathan, if you can just please explain like a little bit about Freemasonry, and kind of like, I think you had conspiracy theories about it too, and how you kind of learned about it and how it's affected you in your life, whether it was either a positive or negative way. Go ahead.
Well, first I'm going to share my Game of Thrones shirt that I'm wearing today.
Ah, very nice.
Oh yeah, I wore it because I finally caught up with the series the other day. I'm not sure if that's coming through or not. That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I see that. And
yeah.
if you could show that thing on your chest patch again and make a little bit of noise, because it jumps through noises. So when I make noise, it shows me, and when you make noise, it shows you.
So you want me to talk when I show you this? That's what you're saying right
You
there.
you just did it. Okay, great. So they can all see that. All right.
Well, we didn't talk about what we were going to talk about before we did this, so I wasn't sure what you were going to ask me about.
Oh, that's fine. Just like kind of masonry, and kind of like what I said, how it's affected you in your life in either like a positive or negative way, and how did you get into it? Like, where did you find out about it? Who told it to you, and things like that?
So that's a whole bunch of questions, and I'll try to field as many as I can at once.
Sure.
I really like these rolling papers because they actually have a symbol that you can find on our Grand Lodge of Massachusetts. I always love when synchronicities pop up like that.
Cool.
Um, yeah, there's all sorts of cool syncs with just my little ritual here in an old book called the Ahiman Rezon. But yeah, let's see here how to answer that. So it's like one of the main tenets of my life is to experience and come to know what really is going on in this reality, to remember what's going on. And that's called Gnosis, Gnosis. And part of Gnosis is finding out or experiencing for yourself. So to answer your question, I had seen, we're all input, process, output. And I had gotten a bunch of input from certain sources when I was coming up in the past few years, becoming aware that there was more to life than just the basic story that we're told. I kind of came into my own awakening at the end of, I want to say about 2014, 2015. That's when I discovered Richard Grove's work. It's when I discovered that there was all of these different conspiracies from the moon landing to different things like that. And without getting into any of those, because I still don't really have a position on which I stand on them, I try to just kind of look at my own life and understand how I can make myself the most highly functional spiritually attuned and useful member of our reality, just to put it in a kind of gist there. So why I began by talking about Gnosis to answer your question was because I was letting everyone else tell me what they thought about this, that, the other thing. And I was getting, from what I can tell now, it seemed bad information or just not true to how I experienced the reality. And I have a Pisces rising for my astrology, my natal chart. And that has an impact on my life where the majority of the way that the reality is filtered is through a kind of flow state. I'm very Tao and Zen how I approach my reality, and it just kind of happened. I can't remember what caused what, but it was about a year or so after I went to Free Your Mind 3, and I started to feel like I was Pisces risings don't mind being adrift, but this was a little too adrift for me. And I was like asking some of my magical mentors, like Gordon White of Room Soup, and different people on the forums there, and different people in my life. I started to something about Freemasonry kind of moved into my sphere, and I was like, look, I've been hearing all these crazy things. I really feel like something tells me in my heart that this could help me and structure my life further and make me a better person. But, I don't want to do anything that's going to be harmful to humanity, right? Because of all the conspiracy crap in my brain. And basically, don't think that I'm disregarding that there are multiple levels of influences here and people's plans here and, counter this and that, counter spies, triple spies, or whatever, right? The stories are deep, and it's still just all, well, in the most part, it's what we would call human beings acting them out. But as I was talking about on the chat yesterday, and just to give people listening to this who weren't listening to that, the brief flavor, you don't really know if it's just human beings or if there are spiritual influences causing these things. And I want to make sure that that's clear. So Freemasonry kind of moved into my life, and I asked a few people I really respected and trusted, is this something that I should do? Is this something that would be good? What should I do? And they gave me encouragement to seek my own path and just said, you know what, why not? Was basically the repeated response. And I had to get over my own insecurities and hang-ups about, what other people were telling me or how this would look if I did this, that, the other thing. And that's a story that we're told by any respectable, wise person. Don't let someone else determine autonomy.
Yeah.
Don't let someone else determine your life.
Yeah.
So it was a really weird story. I was walking dogs for someone at the time who was a Mason, and I asked him, I'm like, hey, we had talked about it here or there, and he wasn't really an active Mason at the time, but he was still a Mason, and he knew that there was a certain meeting going on at a certain place near my town or in my town. Basically, there was a little bit of confusion. He sent me to the wrong lodge. Here's what happened. He sent me to the right lodge for this thing because he said it was an open event for non-Masons. So I'm like, okay, nervous, but I'm going to go check it out and see what's up. And he went to the other lodge. We have different districts, just like states have districts. We have Masonic districts. And we have two physical buildings, one in Norwood and one in Westwood in our district. So I went to the one that he told me to go to, but he went to the wrong one. So I'm walking in, this is like March of 2016. I'm walking in, and I'm like, it's the proverbial, hey, you know Joe? First of all, Joe was a Mason in Boston, not in like Boston proper. I'm in the nice outskirts suburbs of Boston. Like Joe Bear puts it, we're in the nicest. He's in Canton, I'm in Norwood. We're in the nicest suburbs on the outskirts of Boston, and then it's all non-Boston off to the prairie.
Okay.
He says, he says to me to go here. He'll meet me here. I go there. No one knows who he is, of course, because he hasn't been active. He's out of the Grand Lodge in Boston. So I'm like, you know, do you know Joe? I'm walking in. Everyone's getting their aprons on and like this, that, the other thing, and I'm just like, so they now I know everyone who I saw there that night. You know, now I know who they are. I've come to know them. But I gotta tell you, for some rando guy back in like what 316, I'm just they were very sweet, very welcoming, very kind. I mean, just like what you would think a good person should be. They weren't just like, who's this? You know, like I
Ah.
didn't get that. I didn't get that. It was just like, oh, well, this is for Masons only. You know, if you're interested in joining. And my now like flash forward, my now mentor, right? Back in the day, I was so like, I'm talking about what I believe to be divine providence.
Hmm.
He gave me 10 reasons to join, 10 reasons to be a Mason, a little pamphlet that we have. And he gave it to me with his email and his phone on it. I took that, I scooted around, left, went back, got in touch with my buddy who was, he's sitting on the steps of the other lodge still, waiting for me. And so he says, oh yeah, we hang out, we just shoot the shit, whatever. And that's how that night went. I cannot tell you how many times I almost threw out that number and that cell phone, just going, nah, whatever. It took me an entire year. It wasn't until March of 2017 that I followed up, and I was just like, that's at that point where I was really like, I need to do something, and that I believe was my oversoul giving me a sign, kind of pushing me in a direction, saying this is the time in your life's reality where this happens. So we went out, we got coffee. It was a lovely talk. We met a few more times, and he gave me an application, did the thing. Because of certain events, there was just always things that lined up. So my application went through in pretty speedy time because, like I said, there were some things going on. And from March of 17 up until when I was initiated in October of 17, that was a really exciting point in my life. I was very nervous. In Massachusetts, you have to pass a criminal background check to get in. I knew I'd have no problem with that, but I just there's all these things, these like really formal things, and I was just like, I was very hopeful. And as you can tell, everything has gone in that direction. But basically, one of the most magical things that happened when I finally joined Ariel, I was 33 years old, and it turns out that I didn't know this until I joined. My grandfather was a Mason. I didn't know this. He was out of what was called Isaac Parker Lodge in Waltham, Massachusetts, which is now folded. It's folded into another lodge, but he was a Mason. I had no idea. Turns out we both joined at the same exact age. My grandfather and I joined at 33. So,
Divine providence, huh?
I certainly believe so. And, if you have a conspiracy mindset, you're going to be like, oh, look at this guy. He was 33. He's doing this on the camera. Oh, look at everyone. Anyways. So now my ears are ringing, so it's just like, good job. But no, the idea is that this is something I'm not going to go into all of the synchronicities around this. They even involve my father, who joined Masonry last year at the age of 69. So they have a Mason kids program called Demo Ray, and my father was in Demo Ray in like the 50s, and then he just didn't do anything with Masonry his whole life until I joined, and then he became one. So now we have, as far as I know, there's at least a few more generations before my grandfather. So my family actually goes back.
Oh no! I'm just putting down this shade. I'm still listening to you, but it's just go ahead.
our family actually goes back several generations into Freemasonry, and basically to put a fine point on it, um, how it's improved me is still it's transformation of a human being who has a set of patterns and behaviors and beliefs and understandings and how you say neurological processes and this, that, the other thing. That doesn't often just change like that. You know, it takes time. But what I've noticed in myself is that I'm a lot more. I don't know if I could say I'm a lot more empathetic now. I'm a lot more patient. I don't know. It's only been about a year and a half, really. I was raised as a master mason. I took my third degree on April 9th, 2018. So as you can tell, it's been a year since then. So I think that things are moving in the right direction as far as making myself a better person. Is the basic way I can put it.
That's good.
Yeah.
So then let me ask, like, before you got into the whole Freemasonry, what was the trajectory of your life? Like, the thing is that, like, were the public schools, did you go, and like, did you feel as if there was something missing from, like, maybe your education relationships or your family relationships, or you just thought like that this isn't all there is to life, this kind of education that we get and we're told, and the universities and this kind of consumer culture, there's something more out there than me just going to school and just, being trapped in some job, or I don't know. You can elaborate on that.
Well, again, that's another really multifaceted question. But to answer it briefly, yes. I've never. My story is too long to get into here, but
Okay.
I'll start with university and say that I knew that there wasn't enough in my degrees just alone as an English major, which I took because my entire family had been English majors. My father, my mother, my brother eventually, so all of us at least had a degree in English in some form or sort. My father, of course, would go on to become a businessman, work at the Framingham plant of Bose, the speakers company. He would work at a lot of other places that are, well known for doing speakers and stuff like that. But he eventually became a pastor. But none of us seem to really be using our English degrees because that kind of goes to your point. It wasn't enough. I ended up getting a triple major with philosophy, psychology, and English because I was trying to complete the humanities aspect of it. I knew that it wasn't enough to be able to write. I had a deep interest in the brain and the way that psychology worked and how humans worked. And that was kind of like my mundane, meaning like very physical level understanding of things. What I've really been interested in is the human experience through more of a theological or a spiritual resonance. And that's why the philosophy finally came into it. And that's why I had the 1, 2, 3. I had a triple minor as well, because of course I had to have a 3 and a 3, with a 33. That's just how it worked out. But just to entertain the idea, that the minors were neuroscience, film, and law. So I was really just going apeshit with everything, basically. I was like, just throw it at me. What can I, And,
And how were you growing up as a student? Like, what did you think of the whole schooling and how it teaches young people and how it acclimates them into the adult world? Did you see like a problem there? Did you have a problem
yeah,
with it, or how was
yeah.
that?
Oh yeah. No. My story would illustrate this perfectly. I'm not gonna go into everything about it, but basically, I've never been one much for authority, telling me what to do. um, it's a complicated, nuanced thing, but I was thrown to the state like in daycares when I was younger, after school programs, because my mom was a single mother and had to
Mm,
work. So I
same
would have to
here.
go to these things. And I was inundated with the state since I was about 5 years old, at least. So I've grown up in these. I've grown up in these. There's so much to the story that would validate what you're asking me, but I'm not going to go into it right now. I'll suffice to say that I I have an evolving understanding of systems and what our reality is itself. Again, so many people look at just like, oh, it's the state, or oh, it's volunteerism, or oh, it's this, that, the other thing. And I'm like, you're not even taking into account that there are egregores that rule certain mindsets across the vast swath of our population, even in countries and languages that you don't even take into consideration in your daily life. So, I mean, there's so much more going on. But and to be efficacious at any topic, you need to be able to cover those things. But you know, you'll get met with, but who has the time for that? But unfortunately, if you want to, keep hacking off limbs instead of learning how to do proper medicine, then you're going to end up with a diseased ability to understand the world. That being said, yeah, I mean, I've always been my favorite band is Pink Floyd. And of course, I grew up listening to, hey, teacher, leave them kids alone.
Yeah, they're like fascist. I always thought, you see, like, my parents are immigrants from Iran, but I always thought that it was quite ironic, like in a land of the United States. It's funny. I just had a conversation with my mom, and she told me, like, Ariel, do you remember taking the Constitution test? And I said, yeah, we took it like in middle school, and we got this thing. And then she's like, and I'm like, I hardly remember anything of it. And I'm like, why the hell did that matter anyway, when they just violated all of our constitutional rights in school? So it was kind of like that hypocrisy. you know it was like that. And it's funny, like, more people don't see this.
But it makes sense, though, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah. I guess it does, but you see so many people, and I don't know, you probably have noticed this, that they're numb to the reality surrounding them. Have the, like, maybe the creativity, they're kind of like, I don't know, internal spirit. If they wanted to do something in their life, or if they wanted to make something of themselves, they weren't really guided into that path. They were guided into the path that was like, look, you listen to us, you make money for us, and you make just barely enough to, like, meet your needs, and then you just rinse and repeat the same cycle all the time. I mean, that's like kind of like what I'm seeing out here.
Well, to your point about being numb to things, so many people just, notice how bread and circus is so perpetuated. It's people are in pain because this isn't the natural state for them. I don't know. This is such a nebulous topic, but yeah, so many people numb themselves with sports, or watching sports or video games, or alcohol, or I see the cannabis becoming legal as a two-edged blade. I think that it's great that it's not prohibited as much, especially in Massachusetts, where it's both legal for patients and for common consumption. I also see that as, perhaps another level of getting the masses to be supplicated and numb. So there's that side of it too.
You see,
I think weed is great. I do. I love the stoner culture.
Sure, I'm not one for it, but to each their own. Like, I love video games, don't get me wrong, because it's just fascinating to open up a new world and kind of this. But I think, like, people are so excited with sports and video games because in their own life, if you understand what I'm saying, they feel like they're trapped. So to kind of project themselves into sports is like, hey, I'm that person, because that person is like a Massachusetts sports team, so I'm just going to get the happiness out of it. But I think that video games is another degree, because at least in a video game you have the controller and you're controlling that character. But when
it's a limited scope, and I still say go Boston, go Red Sox, go Bruins, go Celtics, even the Revolution. Who am I leaving out of there? Oh yes, the Patriots. Who just won. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't get caught up in it. I just simply support that because it's, that's a very powerful egregore. But I would say to video games, you're talking to a guy who's called a cult fan. That's what I'm known as. Like, people, hey, a cult fan, come sit over here. I'm like, hey, cool. Yeah, I got to spend time with John Michael Greer for a few hours the other day.
who's very well known in the occult community. He's a Mason. He's a Druid. He's very cool. Does a lot of. He used to do a lot of the Golden Dawn stuff. He's writing a book series based on the Necronomicon pantheon, where the old ones are the good guys as nature spirits. It's very cool. But Occult Fan itself comes from a video game. I don't know if you've ever played it, the Final Fantasy series. In specific,
I have
Final Fantasy.
played a 9.
Yes, it's Final Fantasy 8. 9 is my 9 and 8 are my 2 favorites, along with 12, which is pure blasphemy. Which is pure blasphemy to a lot of people who like Final Fantasy, but I love 12. 12 is great.
9 was a bit depressing for me, but
Right.
it ended up in like a happy ending. I don't know if you remember, but that final boss just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, the guy in the big stadium there, that big white guy.
Yeah, Nestron, I think his name was.
Something like that.
Yeah, that big stadium, and I kept losing, and then I just
He's a
played.
hard dog.
So yeah, it was really tough, but once it's well anyway. To explain to the fans out there, Final Fantasy IX is an RPG video game, right?
Sure.
Yeah. That's what it was. But you see, getting back to our point, I think that for me, like when I went traveling to places like, and I've even been to Boston. Boston is awesome, and there's that Norwood Airport over there, which I actually.
I see planes from there like every day.
Right. I did a helicopter ride, believe it or not, from that Norwood Regional Airport.
You probably went over like my lodge and where I lived even, but yeah, maybe.
Probably, yeah. That was really fun. But the thing was, it's like if you think about it, like when I go traveling and when I meet people and when I talk to people and when I get a different perspective of things, I don't know. I just feel like there's a part of me that just opens up. That I feel like free. I feel liberated. I feel like there's nobody back here telling me what to do or what to think or how to do it. I'm just free to explore. And that to me is like one of the best feelings. I mean, I don't know if you've ever felt like that, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be traveling out to Kansas by way of Chicago at the end of June to meet a luminary in the alternative research fields. I'm not going to say who because that's part of the whole thing, but yes, I understand travel. Like in 2017, I traveled out to Hollywood, California, spent a few days, and I got to meet Gordon White, who's one of my mentors, as I mentioned, and I even got to have lunch with him, and he and Connor Habib. So that was a really nice experience. I know exactly what it's like to be traveling and getting to meet the people that you want to meet and talk with them on a level that is just, that you guys vibe on. So I appreciate that point.
Right. And it's just a different feeling without the screen in front of us.
Are you going to be going to Red Pill?
Red Pill, I'm still thinking about it. Maybe I have to make like a few more closes, get a few more like commission checks, but it's definitely on my radar. But
get those tickets soon because they're only going up in price. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But like one of these days for sure I'm gonna meet Richard face to face, whether it's Red Pill or not. I just to meet him and talk.
I believe it.
And I think like the biggest lie that's told to us when we're younger is that our school days are like the best days of our lives.
Of course.
And
college. You're young and dumb and full of fun. I think that's the phrase.
Right.
But it's the great lie of youth.
Right.
Every part of life is sacred if you have the ability to see it the right way.
Exactly. It amazed me. I think like the best times of my life weren't where I was younger, because when I was younger, I was controlled. I was told what to do, and I didn't have any power over my life and where it was going and what was happening. But little by little, as I grew older, and when I took those vacations by myself, and when I started making money by myself, and I more independence, I was much more happier because I didn't have to worry and be dependent on anyone or anything. And I think that's kind of like the ultimate liberation, to write your own script and make your own path in life.
You should listen to Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio. In the intro to every show, Miguel Connor says, we're here to discover our own gospel, to write our own myth.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to do with my YouTube page and my blog and
I can see.
everything like that.
Yes.
That's why people who are entrepreneurs and have built these businesses are so, you see, they're so happy because it's like they're not chained to anything. But when you feel like you're kind of like in, not impoverished, but you're just barely surviving, you feel like you're chained to a lot of things, to your economic situation, to your family, to some bills you have to pay. But when all of that is kind of like removed and you have that liberation of not having to worry so much, it frees you up to do more good in the world and to just be more, I think.
Yeah, in general, I tend to agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a magnet that I have in front of me. It says, "No one can stop you but yourself." So yeah.
Exactly. And that's why I think what Richard talks about in our autonomy course about that extended adolescence, it's like they just made that phrase up. There was no adolescence. What is it? Like the founders of our country, George Washington and Adams and all that stuff, by very young ages, they were doing pretty fascinating things. But when it comes to how we're growing up, it's like they want to keep us changed to these homework assignments and these tests and these
Yeah.
MCATs and all this bureaucracy that kind of slows us down from, like, I don't know, spreading our wings.
Yeah, the Prussian-based education system is definitely designed to create an unquestioning slave population. That's for sure. It seems to me.
Yeah, and so you think that you, when did you feel that you kind of broke out of that mold? Because you said that the state was kind of like in control of your life for a long time. So when was it that the state started losing control of your life, or you kind of freed yourself from that?
I started to get into like I don't know. That's a hard question to answer in a way.
Mm,
I feel like it's still happening to a degree. You know,
mhm.
I still have a lot of autonomy to earn in my life. Like I have a Peace Revolution T-shirt in the other room. It's a green one, so I wear it on Fridays because Venus's day is Friday, and Venus is green. So I wanted to impart that knowledge. It says freedom is learned, not inherited, or something to that effect. Freedom is not inherited; it is learned. Or it's one of those. It's that phraseology to a degree, and I'm still learning how to be free, slowly but surely. You know, you could say as a Freemason, I'm building my own freedom. And how you say, while being a lived point of what am I trying to say? I'm saying that Schopenhauer Schopenhauer has this thing about how you are. And maybe it was Camus actually. Geez, now I'm really. The point is that
All right.
there in several philosophical traditions, there's the notion of being the way that you are in the world is how you would say is justifiable for any other person to be. So how you are, not what you say, but what you do is what you find justifiable for any other person to be or do. So if you're an upstanding person in general, then what you're living and putting out into the world is saying this is how I find as an acceptable way to live. And I would say that a lot of us have a lot of unlearning and trauma to work through as well, not just in our own lives, but we carry the traumas of our ancestors. And this is why I said earlier that we can't just look to freedom in our own lives as it's an isolated incident, as if it's just something that's happening on the causal plane, the material plane, what's known in the tree of life as Malkuth. All right. Things happen at a higher level going down. All causes on this material plane begin at a much higher level of manifestation as the world was created the same way. It began at a much higher vibrational density, and eventually our consciousness found itself in this material density, in this third dimension. Notice the eye in the pyramid is 3 dimensions, with consciousness in it. That's one way to read that the eye in the pyramid. And so what I'm saying is that there are several causes, like I said, ancestral trauma, nationalistic trauma, race trauma, if you will, learned trauma from different traditions that you ascribe to. All of these go into getting yourself to be gnostically aware of who you are and what really is going on in this reality and how you can achieve the highest manifestation of your karma in this incarnation. Because we are, Ariel, eternal beings. We are spirits having a human experience. So there's a lot to go into learning how to be free, including having a functional spiritual system that isn't authoritizingly pushed down on you.
Authoritarianly?
That's true. That's, well, yes. And that you would say that you would need to simply, as the old aphorism goes, to know thyself. And if you know yourself, you're going to be free. I think there's something that's intimately bound up in that. You can't get too caught up on too many facets going on. The world's extremely complicated. I mean, it's strange that we exist at all. So, I just want to make it clear that when we're looking to establish autonomy in our lives, yes, it's absolutely necessary to have the basic behaviors on the causal plane that are in accord with living autonomously. I just want to stress the point that it's not just work that you need to do on the causal plane, as above, so below. You would need to be able to have your body, mind, and soul all in lockstep awareness of becoming autonomous. So it's freedom on multiple levels.
And that comes with kind of unlearning what's kind of happened, like you said, the ancestral trauma of, like, you have great grandparents, and probably it started where, I don't know, they probably didn't know how to be free and autonomous, and they kind of maybe passed down that dependency from generation to generation. And then maybe if you can break out of that and you can learn how to do that, so you can finally cut that chain, that kind of destructive chain, and start anew. I mean, what do you think?
I think that's a great point. Now I know why I've had Fleetwood Mac's song "The Chain" stuck in my head, because you've mentioned chain so many times right now. So I am profoundly clairvoyant, and like earlier today, a friend of mine sent me. She said, "What color am I wearing today?" Immediately, blue flashed into my head, but I don't like being wrong about these kind of things, so I hemmed and hawed. But I was right. She sent me a picture. She's wearing this lovely blue dress, like blue as blue could be. I just want to add, as above, so below, can be seen in this card right here. The magician. Yeah, I like to joke that I'm a one-man CFR, a chaos magician, Freemason, Rosicrucian, CFR. But yeah, I would say that to the ancestral trauma aspect of that, that's a very difficult topic to get into. But yes, we need to take responsibility for our own selves and make our own lives mirror the highest ideal that we can possibly live. I think as far as schools go, I would like to see more Waldorf schools or Montessori schools. That would be a good solution in my opinion.
Where at least there's a little bit more autonomy than what we got with
more autonomy, more spiritual awareness, because Rudolf Steiner was at the founding of those Waldorf schools, I believe it was. So, there's a certain belief out there that there's, you can, let's tie this in with that Victor Neumann, the human use of human beings, which I would say is the archonic use of human beings. And that is to say that there are certain forces out there that might be far above the human plane, that want humans to become mechanized, like in the Matrix or something. And that they would have, that's what you would, if everyone's plugged into that VR reality and believing that they don't have a soul or that they don't have a spirit, then they're going to end up in an extremely long-term, not eternal, but damn near eternal state of being plugged into a false reality, which is
That's
known
pretty
as
scary, man.
the eighth sphere, which is
Uh-huh.
where some say that we're currently heading into in this current great cycle. Some
Wow.
believe that this has all happened before, and that there's been a massive cataclysm, and that things happen in cycles on a grander scale, just as we reincarnate little reincarnations all the time. You know, like what
Cycles. You're talking about?
we might be heading towards one where the human soul is in danger of being corrupted to the point of almost no return.
Like
And
beyond repair. Beyond
I don't believe
damage.
that anything ever ends. I believe that one of my other mentors is Savan Bomar. He goes by the name Savan, but his name is James Evans Bomar. And he says that one of the definitions of evil is to say that anything ever ends, that anything's ever final. Everything is,
Mm.
as we learn in Taoism, everything's in a permanent flux and flow state. And there's a little bit of this polarity embedded in the other polarity. So there's no one state of anything. You know, you can choose to change at any time. For me, Freemasonry was an expression of my willingness to make myself the next level up, the next better version of who I am. I find that there's a lot of things that I've already learned in a year that it's so ephemeral in some ways, but it's also very tangible. I'm definitely becoming that better version of myself. I've learned transcendental meditation in the past year, and that's helped me a lot as well. I've begun my podcast, The Six of Swords, as well as The Six of Cups. So you have the Six of Swords right there and the Six of Cups. And then I have two other shows coming up, The Six of Wands and The Six of Stones. You can tell I like these. I'm also got some other plans coming up. But between that, improving my communication with other people, improving my desire to add to the common stock of human knowledge, my desire to have the greatest targeted, focused impact on this world that will, in my opinion, improve it through bringing people to an awareness of their spiritual nature. All of these things have been positively impacted by my joining of the fraternity, as well as my beginning studies into Rosicrucianism and my chaos magic practices. I find that wherever I'm at right now, it's a world away from where I was when I was living in greater darkness. So,
There's more light. Is that how you feel?
no, I'm
Mm.
a little bit more enlightened, if you will. A little bit
Enlightened.
more.
Enlighten
Little,
the load.
that's good. I like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
illuminated is another good word for it.
Yeah,
But
illuminated, and that's how I feel. You do you know how happy I am, like not to be in a school or university kind of environment anymore.
oh, I
I
can tell because that's one of the main things that I've heard you talk about. You
right.
bring it up frequently, and I think it's very important to you.
Right, because it's like every time I was in a school and university environment, there was always these worries that I had in the back of my head. You know, oh, the test is coming up, the paper is due, the group project is happening, and then I would run and I would scurry and I would try to put all these things together. But then when all that ended, I was like, I can breathe.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry. And now I can concentrate on me, on who
But
I am, what I want, you know?
it was also self-imposed in a way, right? Because we
Right.
chose to go to school, we chose to be, I mean, for whatever it means, when like the president at the time, Obama, comes out and says that everyone needs to go to college, how much,
Yeah,
how much is choice and how much is very strong manipulation. We always have,
exactly.
we always have free will. That's important
Will.
to remember.
Yeah, that's true. Even you have the decision to drop out of high school, but there's so much fear that they drop on you if you take that route. Like you'll never, you know what I'm talking about. Of course, it's always your decision, but there is so much manipulation and so much judgment if you break away from that cycle, that
There can be,
kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because the other the other sentient beings that are to some degree aware will say, well, why aren't you, why aren't you buying into the same, like it goes back to that, like how you find being acceptable in the world is the way that you are. So
Mm-hmm.
they find being acceptable to be that, and anything that seems to be deviating from that. I mean, you could see the same thing in any codified religion. It's just like, well, why aren't you praying to the same God that I pray to?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People pin so much of their egoic reality and their comfort on certain patterns
Yes, but
that if you introduce something that is counter to that pattern, it will make them feel nervous.
yes, yes, and it's not, some people, because the government is always saying and the schools are always saying we're doing this because we want the best for you, quote unquote. But it's like they
Right.
don't, it's for their own ego. They do it because when we're in their line, when we're in their system, it makes them feel good about themselves. Even if that system is terrible, it says, oh, these people are in my system doing what I want them to do, and it's for their own good. But how much of that is just their own ego talking to them and their own wants of, things like
Right,
that?
because they derive so much of their sense of purpose and being and power from the position in society that they've achieved. And to a degree, there's nothing wrong with that, and to another degree, there's everything wrong with that. I mean, it depends on how you
Hmm.
look at it. And then even right and wrong isn't necessarily a proper framework for it. It's kind of a little more nebulous and nuanced than that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, as Michael Badnarik said when I was having an interview with him, there is no easy answer. There's no like cure all. And I don't think there can ever be like a cure all. But just from the way that I'm seeing things now and the way that I'm seeing that our economy is going, and so many people are having so many drug problems and money problems, and they're confused about their life and they're confused about their destiny, and they think their life is kind of going nowhere. I'm saying then what is the system that has led to that? Most of these people have been through the public education system. So
We
I mean, is that
also
just a coincidence? You know what
we
I'm
also
talking about?
chose to come here. I believe. I believe that there's something on the level of karma. You mentioned destiny a second ago,
Hmm.
which is an incredibly tricky concept, but basically, I do believe that we have certain life goals that we incarnate with that we can choose to rise to the occasion of and complete. I don't think anything about life is supposed to be easy. If it were, there would be no purpose for life. It seems, but I don't know. I might be layering on meaning that's not there.
Well, I mean, I respectfully disagree because, cavemen, it wasn't easy for you to live back in those days when you were like hunting, animals in the wild. But we've made technology to kind of, just rest a little easier because, like, we know we have better ways of doing things. We have cars, so we don't need to walk. We have transportation systems. We have technologies like this where I can just easily send money or get in touch with someone in the other side of the world. So I think this has all kind of made our lives more convenient. So we're always looking for ways to improve things and make them better, but
Yeah.
just to deal with unnecessary stress and trauma, I don't think that's the best direction to go in, if you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I agree with that. I don't think we're disagreeing at all, actually. When I say that I don't believe that life is meant to be easy, just because humans have tried to create systems or technologies that will make things more convenient, it doesn't mean it's meant to be easy. It just means that we have a tendency to want comfort because maybe that's, the nature of life is so difficult. I don't know. I would say that this is, there's so many ways to look at technology itself as a self-aware and animistic force that wants itself to exist in the world. That just like we procreate so that we'll continue having our genetic line be manifest on the causal plane. It seems that like certain technologies are self-aware forces that want to exist as well. It doesn't mean that life was meant to be easy. It just means
Yeah.
that that's another force that's operating in the realm.
That's true. Maybe it wasn't meant, but I guess we'll have no way of knowing 100%. Everybody has their thing, but I can definitely say that sure, like take up a challenge once in a while, push your boundaries, do all those things. I'm not against that, but I'm just saying unnecessary pain, stress, and trauma that can be curtailed. And if we just think that this is just the way things have to be, I think that that's doing ourselves a disservice because we're not thinking in a better way, and we're not being creative, and we're just accepting stress and trauma and pain as it is rather than doing something about it.
Yeah, no, I think that that's the learned helplessness aspect to a degree, right?
Yes. That's that's what I think. And the more that we can push back against these forces that kind of keep us in this, I don't know, this pit of extended adolescence, the more we're elevating the good. The more we're getting the word out there, the more if we reach a critical mass, if you know what I'm talking about.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like, this makes me think of the American Revolution, which I'm still the jury's still out on, but was it actually a revolution that was, I don't know. That's a complicated topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that symbolically, it's one of the greatest things that's ever happened in recent history. The belief that every man and woman and queer, wherever you are on the spectrum,
Yes,
it's everyone is sacred. But every man is created equal. Like I just said, everyone is sacred. Every man is created equal. I think that that at least the proposed and perpetuated belief was one of the more revolutionary ways of approaching the governing, right? Like Mark Passio points out, the controlling of the mind, or the directing of the mind of the populi. You would say that was at least in verbiage and even in praxis, that was much superior in some people's view than having a king or an emperor tell you how to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Very complicated.
But now it seems like we have all these mini kings and mini emperors kind of controlling everything. Like it's more diluted, but they're still just as controlling because every man. But what about every child? I mean, it's really hard because everybody has their own ideas of where cutoff points should be for independence and freedom. But like we said, I think this education system is directly in conflict with what the founders were talking about, where they created this country.
I could definitely ascribe to some aspects of that. Just because you're old doesn't mean you're mature. Just because you're young doesn't mean you're that ignorant. I do find that when we're younger, there are some aspects of us that are still much more pure and connected to the spiritual realm, and we are very different beings before we come into the age of knowing. I mean, I think
Yes.
that so you're Jewish, yeah?
Yeah.
And you had your bar mitzvah when you were 13?
Yeah, something like
So
that.
in the Jewish tradition, there's a period where there's like I'll go on with that in a second, but just remember that the word teenager was completely invented in like the 40s, 50s, around that period.
Yes.
And there's that great Time magazine article with the mushrooms and teenagers allowed dose or whatever. But all I'm saying is that if you look at a tribe who's aware of the other dimensions, of the other spiritual realms, of the other planes of being, they prepare you for when you stop being that innocent child, having your interactions with the spiritual realm, to become a fully fledged member of the community. And what typical tribal initiation, including the tribe, right? Israel.
Right.
Tribe,
Yeah.
right. I'm 3/4 goy, but I'm also right, and that's a thing.
Right.
That is a thing. It's an in-group and a group thing. But in that group, you have at least a symbolic representation of saying, all right, your body's about to go through several serious chemical changes. You're no longer going to interact with the other dimensions the way that you did as a child, ostensibly speaking, unless you've gone through training or this, that, the other thing, like Emma Hardin Britton, for example. You would say that you're one of the reasons. I'm getting into the fact that, hello. I'm getting into the fact that in several tribal traditions, they would prepare you for not just the puberty aspects of the physiological change, but this mirrored on the spiritual plane would say that you're now going to be interacting with these dimensional forces in a different way. Notice how so much poltergeistic activity occurs when the hormones are ramped up around teenagers, for example. That'll give you some insights to what I'm saying. But basically, yeah, you went from being a kid to an adult, and that was it. There was none of this extended middle part, as far as I can tell, that we call teenagerhood. Such a weird word.
Yeah.
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 So it's really based on what the individual can do with what resources they have, with what community they have. And it's not based on age. It's not like age is just a number, but age is just a number.
Yeah, man. I mean, I agree 100%. I personally never felt like I was a teenager. I never wanted to get into trouble. I never wanted to do these things that teenagers wanted to do. I just felt like, hey, teach me how money works. Teach me what my how are my parents paying the rent? How are they driving a car? How are they doing all these things? I want to know because I want to be independent too. Don't put me in some cage and give me a bunch of random information to memorize and say it's because a teenager. I want to learn how are they doing all these things on their own. And it was ridiculous to me how I didn't get that.
Mm. Well, it's good that you're at a place now where you can try to put the past away, as they say, right?
Right.
I think it's like what is that? Third Eye Blind. Could you put the past away? Jumper is the name of the song. You say, don't kill yourself over this shit. Just put the past away.
Right.
Well, it's a similar concept. Although those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it, they say. So there's a mixture. There's an admixture of not letting things that have happened before impact your present moment. There's also learning from those so that you can move forward.
Right. Well, this interview that we're having right now, I mean, I could have told myself, oh, I've never done an interview in the past. I've never set up this software in the past. I've never talked to somebody like this in the past. And just when you said, you didn't brief me, I didn't brief you on what we'd be talking about. But look at us right now. We're going and we're having a natural conversation, and it's who big deal of because I knew that would happen when I talked to somebody. I knew it would just naturally flow. I need to have a list in front of my face where I'm oh, wait, hold on, hang. So remember, and it's just this natural occurrence. You see?
Yeah. What's your birthday, Ariel? Are you comfortable saying that?
Yeah, fine. September 4th, 1988. A year of the dragon in Chinese and Virgo.
Yes. You and I would tend to get on well in the realm of the Chinese astrology because I am the way it works in the 12 years that they have. Any years that are at I believe it's I think I'm saying this right. It's a sextile cadence, but basically every 4 years gets along really well. So in their system, right? So you're a dragon. I don't know what type of dragon you are because they use
I think it was Earth or something like that, but I don't know.
They use a 60-year cycle divided by 5 elements in 12 animals. So 12 by 5 being 60, you would either be a wood, a fire, a metal, a water, or an earth. I think it is. But if you know yours. But I'm a wood rat. So rats and dragons tend to get along well because
that's cool.
I'm also September, but I am born on the exact moment of the equinox. And that makes me September 22nd being new zodiac sign. So I'm a Libra sun,
right.
Whereas you're a Virgo sun. But remember, you're not just Ariel's not just Ariel's head or Ariel's hands. Ariel
Right.
is all of Ariel. So you are whatever Saturn is in your chart, or even the empty spaces in your chart. Not everyone has all their. Very rarely do you find a star chart that has all of these, all of the signs filled. So like I have maybe like one. I have like nothing in the part of Cancer, the cardinal water sign, but I still have my life still impacted by what happens in that realm of the chart.
Right.
My single point is that you are all of your planets and all of the stars impacted, not just, oh, I'm a Libra or I'm a Virgo. That's
Right. It's
profoundly
very
problematic.
myopic,
It's
I guess you could
myopic,
say.
it's problematic, and it's ignorant because it's harmful because
Mhm.
you're
Mhm.
not a Virgo. You have a Virgo sun.
Mhm. Mhm.
Notice,
So they're
notice,
different
notice,
aspects.
notice this though. The sun is the most lit up. The sun's what brings light, so it has the most focus and attention. So by virtue of its own planetary purpose, it's the one that always gets the most attention. It's also
Ah.
sorts
Yes.
of correlating functions that causes the sun to be what we use as our main calendar. Although Judaism traditionally used a lunar calendar, for
Yeah.
example. But that's this. It's very interesting stuff. But yeah,
Right.
you would want to learn more about your chart.
Right.
You need to know what time and where you're born. That needs to
Right. It's very interesting how an Ariel, I don't know if you know this in Hebrew, it means lion of God. So there's like lion in Hebrew, dragon in Chinese, and these things are like ferocious. So the funny thing that I say is that when it comes to subjects I'm passionate about, like I don't mind to go up and give a speech and just
no, you don't.
like the fire breath. You know what I mean? Kind of like dragons out of that fire breath. I'm not afraid to go up there and like be all
Yeah,
talking about how we get educated and unleash some of my fire breath about how we're not making money and it's nonsense and it's BS and like shake my fist
yeah.
in the air. So I just think it's congruent with like who I am.
It is, and you want to lean into those strengths while at the same time learning how to best focus them. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if a laser's light spread out everywhere, it's gonna light up a lot of things, but it's not focused. If you can get that down, you can really burn a hole right through
Yes.
it.
Yes, exactly. And I think this is what this autonomy course is helping me. That kind of laser like focus. Because if it's too widespread, it's not gonna have an effect. And I think that's how schools do us a disservice. We're like all the buildings are scattered and everything is
Right.
fragmented and everything is kind of like, this subject, and then we ring the bell and get your laser focus off of science and put it on math and put it on this. But the most successful people have that one thing and they're laser focusing on it. You know what I mean?
In general, it seems that way. One of the things that I think is very important for people to learn is what's known as lateral thinking, and that's being
Hmm.
able to make analogical connections to other things. Like there's a famous writer named Stephen Jay Gould who is so respected because of his ability to think laterally, and that's kind of what you would call a Renaissance man's mind.
Ah, yes.
They can see the connections between everything and see how the mitosis of
Analogous.
yeah, analogy, right. This is to that. So as above, so below is an analogy, an analogous way of, that's a hermetic principle. And it's saying that everything that happens on the macrocosm happens on the microcosm in a smaller or more condensed physical form. So like you could draw an analogy between how an opus swells in its cadences as it builds to a crescendo, and they could say, oh, but look, that's also how a pupae bursts forth into a butterfly or a seed at that critical juncture. That small little itty bitty thing has so much energy in it. It's bursting through.
It
So that's
reminds
an
me of
analogous way of thinking.
chemistry, where you have this little tiny drop of some chemical and you put it into like a gigantic beaker and it just changes everything like it's a catalyst. You know
I've
what
got a
I'm
beaker.
talking about?
Got a beaker
There
right
you
here.
go. Nice, nice. I love chemistry. I love, science, technology, chemistry. They're my
Yep.
favorite. They were always my favorite subjects.
I didn't know that about you. Oh, that's
Oh,
cool.
yeah, yeah. That's me.
Do you know the famous physicist who invented the not the ferroelectric cage? What's it called? Um, oh, what's that? Hold on, I just had it. It's on the tip of my tongue. The Faraday cage. Wow, geez, duh. Do you know what a Faraday cage is?
Kind of like where. Does it have to do with electricity, or does it have to do with? Okay, but I that's all I know. Something about electricity, and that's it.
Yeah, I really could know a lot more about it myself, but basically, it's a particular structure that prevents certain vibrational frequencies from penetrating it, and that was
Mm,
invented by the man named Michael Faraday, who was born actually on my birthday. So I feel this
cool.
I feel this arcane connection with him. Plus, my last name being Miller Foster and Michael Faraday, lots of connections. But anyways, yeah,
That's
you
awesome.
would find that interesting in sci- science, scientific terms. You know,
Right, right. I call some things are scientific. It's a little.
I love that. When I was a kid, I would talk about potassium in my bananas and call them. I would say, "This is potassium yummy." Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love like that's who I am. I mean, I love being creative. I love getting words, throwing them around, making something new, and kind of just having fun like that. And
yeah, it's
that's why.
fun.
Yeah, that's why I hated the education system so much because you're not allowed to do that. This is the way
No,
you do it. It's our way, and if you don't do it our way, you get an F. And then you go
very
out into the world and you realize that succeeding in the world is the opposite of what they just told you.
Yeah, it's a very limited scope of self-expression, which again goes to the Pink Floyd thing, right? All the kids are
Right.
going
Exactly.
through.
It's
What do their
perfect.
faces look like? They're all blank. They
Yeah,
all
they're
look
like,
the
yeah,
same.
they're like this. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well,
It's
they have
sad.
masks on. They have like these
It,
creepy and like
it
because
is creepy.
it's
The Borg.
overlaid. It's right. It's a board. It's overlaid. It's put over them. You would like. Well, I don't know. There's a writer out there named Christopher Loring Knowles. He writes the Secret Sun blog, and he says better morgue than Borg, and that takes us back to what we were talking about with the eighth sphere and Rudolf Steiner, because some people do believe that the human beings are being trained. Notice how I said the human beings. The human beings are, you humans, the human beings are being trained to become plugged in, and that would be that Borg state. So Chris says, and I quote this eminently, better morgue than Borg.
Oh wow.
I'd rather die my natural death than be an ignorant piece of that doesn't believe in its eternal soul.
Like
Like
a piece of protoplasm or something like that.
yeah, like it's like
Yeah.
you're forfeiting your divinity, and it's disgusting.
We're outsourcing our divinity. It's like or something, or we just get but then we give our divinity to people who just throw it in the dumpster. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah, no,
ridiculous.
it's like an abuse. It's any abusive relationship. Like
Hmm.
if a girl really likes a guy and the guy's just like whatever, and she'll throw everything at him. You know what?
Uh-huh.
She's not respecting her own life force or her
Right,
dignity.
exactly. It's like I
Like,
don't want to give my life force and my potential to these people who are just wasting it on nonsense. Why would
another
I ever
reason
do
why
that?
another reason why I think in the mystical terms why sex is in some ways you could see it as sacred because you're giving your most intimate vital life force energy, and this is totally not like how you could see how people who are into paganism or whatever, I'm not judging. I'm simply saying that like that's such an intimate and flawless moment, and there's so
Hmm.
much confusion around it. But like everyone that you've ever had sex with, that you properly had sex with, completed intercourse, and this, that, the other thing, you guys are tied together for the rest of possibly eternity. And I
Right.
don't mean that lightly. And I don't mean, and there's plenty of magicians and plenty of theologists and plenty of philosophers out there that might have something else to say on that matter. That's fine. I would have to, at this point, irrefutably disagree. Irrefutably disagree. Is that? I would disagree with anyone who says
That's
that
fine.
I would say that anyone who says that that's not the case is not looking at things clearly. But 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I didn't think that tarot cards were real. Not that they didn't exist. I just didn't think that they had any value. I didn't think the zodiac was real. I didn't, even think about 9/11, right? So
Mhm.
I'm slowly coming into my own, and I'm always open to learning new things as long as they fit with what is true and real and ultimately good.
Yeah, that I mean that's what like all the decent people in humanity have been in search of. They looked at a system that was kind of dysfunctional, and like their gears started turning, and everybody else who became the Borg, like it was like this thing where they just couldn't communicate with them. It was like a blockage, because it's like they were so deep into that rabbit hole that you couldn't just pull them out of it. It's
Yeah.
sad, but I think it's true.
Yeah, I mean, like in the Bible, they say that only 144,000 people will be saved. I
Hmm.
mean, like, besides like the esoteric meanings behind that and the gematria and this, that, the other
Hmm.
thing,
Hmm.
I wonder if that's some kind of like age-old wisdom passed down in the Western tradition that says that like no matter how hard you work, there's always going to be a segment of the incarnate population that is going to just be there to service through unquestioning slavishness. I don't know.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't know.
Yeah, and it becomes, but you see that kind of process is, how can I say, is accelerated by this thing we got going on. These schools that promote that type of behavior. So it's also, so I feel sorry for some of them, because their individualism and their potential has been like exercised out of
Yeah,
them.
great,
Like,
great word. That's a great way to put it. Let me.
right.
We're gonna start moving around again because I got to charge
That's
my phone soon and make
that's
coffee. So
that's fine. That's fine. But I think we've definitely covered a lot of ground here, and I think that people who want to kind of look at this and see this, it's funny. So it jumps. It's like like Freemasons aren't what you should be worried about. It's the system that you're already in that we're kind of trying to pull you out. You know what I'm talking about? It's like
I would
ironic.
say to any conspiracy theorist that because I mean, like, if you're gonna hate on the Freemasons, then you're gonna have to hate on the Catholics, then you're gonna have to hate on the Jews, you're gonna have to hate on people who don't necessarily have the same level of anarchism or voluntarism as you. And I mean, it's all a
Yeah,
crumbled building from there. To quote
exactly.
the band Tool from the book that I'm working on right now, the track Schism, I know the pieces fit. And if we're going to make ourselves the most cohesive and free possible, because, again, Freemasons were builders of freedom. That's how I
Mhm,
understand it.
mhm.
I would say that to make the pieces fit is how to have fundamental communication
Right.
to discover whatever communication is. There's
Well,
this thing
yeah.
called there's this thing called the myth of communication that I need to look into. But basically, if you're going to have any kind of meaningful forward motion in the world, you're going to need to learn how to communicate and to be on the same level as other people.
Mhm, mhm. And what people should really be worried about, I'll just say this, are the enslavement masons. I just made that up, but I think
Um, I don't, I don't know what I could possibly say to that.
right. Well, I guess the enslavement masons are the people who are in charge of our schools right now, because they're
I,
just
I, is it a Mason? Is it a Catholic? Is it a Jew?
the
Is
whatever.
it
It's just a
a
joke.
Hindu?
I don't know the whatever. It was just a joke. Just the people who want us to outsource our communication and critical thinking to them, and they say that we should trust them when the evidence points in the other direction. That's all. That's all I mean by that.
So we're basically saying no matter what part of a group anyone's part of, if there's someone who are not living authentically by some higher sacred laws, then they're the ones to worry about. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if they're not doing that, if they want themselves to be the arbiter of right and wrong, and for you to just outsource a part of your mind to them and just trust them when they haven't shown you anything, that's whoever
There's
that
another
is.
there's another Tool song that I'll quote right now from their first EP called Opiate, and it's actually the track Opiate. Maynard sings, and by the way, Tool's not just Maynard; it's Danny Carey, Justin Chancellor now, used to be Paul Deamore on bass, and Adam Jones. But now we're getting low. Maynard sings, "Choices always were a problem for you. What you need is someone strong to guide you." So he's kind of like mocking this is very early Tool, and he's kind of mocking the masses and talking about how people don't want to make their own decisions. They just want someone else to make it for them. And that's very in step with what we're talking about in the school system. I mean, of course, Maynard himself, his real name is James Keenan. He made up the name Maynard. But James Keenan himself went through, there's my poster on my ceiling.
Nice.
It's a Kama Sutra poster, and it says, "Sex is nourishing, but sex without love is like trying to grow a rose with sun but no water."
Interesting.
Of course, I keep that above my bed. Where else would you keep that? There's all the Pink Floyd ladies over there.
Very nice.
The back catalog everywhere. But no, to finish the thought. I hope I didn't. Okay, good.
No, we're fine. I can see it.
Yeah, my phone. So to finish the thought, the idea of people making choices for you, or he's obviously it's kind of like he went through West Point, right? He went through he either went through West Point or some other army school, but he knows intimately what it's like to have someone barking vicious orders that are not of your own accord, but are of their own top-down authority unto you that you better fucking do, or else you're going to get into the brig or fire.
Or walk the plank, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll be punished. And that's not your own free will. So yeah, I think Tool, one of the biggest things that they talk about, I'm going to flip my thing over here. Can you see that, the Unleashed?
Yeah, I can see that. Tool, Red Book, yeah, I can see all that.
So what he's talking about, what they talk about, now I'm upside down.
You're upside down.
I'm going to do this, hold on. That should fix it. No? Well, I am now in, as Luke
now you're in the other dimension.
I'm in the upside down. I'm the antipathies. Actually, if you look on my wall right now, you can see a Tool poster up there that should be up. It would be upside down, except it's probably right side up right now.
Right.
So anyway, how the hell can I shake my?
There. Now you're outside up. Now it's fine.
All right, I'm back from Australia. So anyway,
right.
on this flat Earth.
Right.
You know what? I am making fun of it, but I'll tell you what. Like I said yesterday, do not watch that stuff if you don't want to have like a serious crisis of awareness.
Right.
Very compelling stuff in that, and it's very uncomfortable. So
Okay.
anyway, let's move past that because
let's just not enough time for that. Yeah.
Isn't that what Obama said? We don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society. Yeah. What's really good about that is that we have to look at language. There's a lot hidden in it. Yeah. I think I can say this. Jesus. Well, anyway, so the one symbol of the cross is the actual human form. Like the cross itself represents the human physical form. So
right.
The human, and if you look at a symbol, stay with me for this. If you look at the symbol of Malkuth on the Tree of Life, the bottom, where the manifestation happens, it's a circle, and it's the only one that has it. The circle with a cross in it. I'm not doing this to you. It's a circle with a cross, and it's represented by russet, citrus, and citron and other colors. But my point is that the T represents, like a galactic cross, the T represents the physical form. So if this is the plane of the physical form, it's the planet. So I'm not saying that it's flat. I'm not saying it's round. I'm saying that it's a fucking dream and that we're manifested into it is what I'm saying. But, you know, it's a great way, just like schooling, just like certain dogmatic religions are great at getting you to get distracted or unquestioning. It's kind of like it's a great way to get people distracted. Like I like what Richard comes down on and says, what would it matter either way? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the only thing that matters to me is like, look, I want to write my own script in life. I want to do the things that I want to do, and I'm not looking to bother anyone. But if you want to come and kind of write this script for me and push me into something that I don't want to be a part of, then we're gonna have a problem. I mean, that's all I'm saying.
Same page, same fucking page.
Fucking page. And I think, wow, you said 30 minutes. I think we went over, but that's awesome though.
I like interacting with you, so the time just kind of, you know.
No. I'm just saying that was great because then I know I'm a pleasant kind of person to be around if you want to spend more time.
Notice that time itself is illusory, just as space is actually. But notice that like you can be having a really fucking boring. My language. I'm sorry. You can be having a really. It's my own. I'm working on my own language.
Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry about it. We're all adults.
Well, that's adults should behave like them then.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Teenagers swear. But anyways, because so it's like rated R. You can show violence and swears, but you can't show. Anyways, my point is that when you're having a really good time, notice you're like look at the sentence. I'm have a really good time. So time itself, like the Mad Hatter says that he's best friends with time and stuff like that. If you knew time like I did, of course he was kind of up from mercury poisoning. So, but anyways, the point is time is illusory and it's a perceptual based thing.
Exactly.
While there is time, there isn't time, and I'm still growing up as far as my metaphysics.
Right, and I mean, if you think about it, what is wasted time? I mean that it's all just a perception. I mean, if I'm doing something that I love, whether I'm making money or not, I don't care because I'm enjoying it. And isn't making the money for the purpose of doing that thing I love? So I'm not, you know what I mean?
Remember, time is money, right? That's
time is money, you know, that BS. Yeah,
well,
but money is only a means to an end, right?
Dark side of the moon.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's my little shrine up there. It's speaking of Earth, Ariel, it's the year of the Earth Pig this year.
Cool.
So, is that showing?
Yeah, that's showing, but I don't think that's kosher.
Not if you eat it. You can't eat that pig.
Right, but you can have it as a pet, I guess, or on a farm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only a quarter Jewish, so I can eat 3/4 of the piece of it.
Yeah. And another thing I love is just having a good joke with people, just having something to laugh about and to thing. And
if you can laugh, you're not under threat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you can laugh, then you are safe. You are elevated to the heights of maybe back to the fact that this is all a cosmic joke.
Yeah, exactly. It's all a joke. And I had one best friend in middle school, and the whole thing we were doing at recess was just making fun of how stupid the education system was. We were just making joke after joke after joke about how ridiculous and idiotic like all the authority was in the schools and everything like that. And it turned out we were right. Those jokes all turned out to be true.
Have you heard of the phrase "from the mouth of the babe"?
No, I haven't.
So it's like when a child walks up to like this really fat person and says, "Hey, you're very fat." You know, they're right. That person's fat.
Right.
You're not supposed to say that by polite social whatever.
Right.
From the mouth of the babe means, like, again, someone who has their perception not diluted and not, you know, so it's kind of pure commentary in a way. So from the mouth, That's
Oh,
what that means.
There's nothing I love more than that. Just pure, raw commentary on ththings that are going on, because there's no layer of bullshit that you have to dig under to get to the truth. You know what
I
I
like
mean?
Bill Burr. So interestingly enough, my ex-fiance, her father, I believe it was her father or her uncle, one of them, he sold Coke to Carlin on several. He was his Coke dealer.
Hmm.
Carlin liked his Coke candy. But
Okay.
my point is that I really like comedians like Bill Burr, George Carlin, and
Yeah.
Alex. Sorry, not Alex Jones, Bill Hicks.
Bill
Excuse me,
Hicks.
Pop.
Good one. It's okay.
The,
Yeah.
the joke there is that a lot of people say that Bill Hicks fake died and became Alex Jones, but
Right.
anyways,
Whatever.
I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't know, Joe. The DMT. Work out.
Hicks. Yeah.
Well, you just see that's the thing, right? But yeah, that's all. It's neither here nor there. It's kind of fun to play in conspiracy sandboxes from time to time.
Yeah, from time to
Dude,
time.
I keep life real, you know.
But
I'm too
but but
busy
but
coming up with
I
books.
mean it's not even like with the way we're being educated. I mean, it's not even a conspiracy anymore. It's just reality. I mean, what, like all these students coming out of college and not having any jobs and having thousands of dollars in debt? That's just out in the open. That's not being kept secret. Everyone's talking about it. So it's like, obviously this isn't working and we're promoting it. I mean, right, and then now it's just mental illness. It's not a conspiracy anymore.
It's but it is no measure of it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. I believe
100%.
it's on my wall over there. I keep forgetting who says that. I think it's Krishnamurti, but yeah, Jiddu
But yeah.
Krishnamurti.
Yeah, and that's what I never wanted, because like in school I was diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, learning disability, this, learning disability. I talked with Michael Badnarik, and he said those are just all criminal attacks on my children. Nathan, I'm gonna force you to do something that you hate for a full like 8 hours, and when you don't want to do it, I'm gonna label you as having some kind of problem.
Yeah, it's not the fact that what you're doing forcing me is like rapey and wrong.
Right, exactly. Like, could you imagine like a rape victim? Oh, she didn't like I raped her. Oh, well, she must have some kind of mental deficiency because she didn't enjoy my raping. Okay,
Yeah.
that is sick, stupid,
Yeah.
and evil, and wow. Like,
No, I think that has to do with the nature of power itself, because
mhm.
if power, by virtue of how it works, the power's coming, like, it's like,
Down
the
on you, like,
Tom Oakett is saying, yeah. So it's like saying that. But then, of course, the power is justifying itself because like Terence McKenna says, if something is true or real, it can take the pressure. So something that's so out of balance and unreal as like that fake need to control something else that comes from an
mhm.
insecure place in the first place, then it's going to, of course, say,
Right.
what's wrong with you? You're not accepting my decree. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, exactly.
that's
And
you need swords that's why you need swords to enforce that law.
I watched Richard's interview with Robert Kiyosaki, and Robert goes like, most of these teachers are broke. Most of these people in the system have so many problems and have so many deficiencies and have so many dysfunctions, and
Yeah.
they want to give that to us? What the hell is
Well,
that? It's
but,
like,
but it's like the thing of misery loves company. So it's
exactly.
it's a vibrational
It's going to
frequency.
perpetuate itself. It's going to perpetuate, because if I'm unhappy, I rather not see anyone else happy. It's like, I'm unhappy. Why the hell should they be happy? That's a very evil way of looking at things. But yeah.
On a mystical level, I believe that right where I'm at right now is that it has to do with vibrations and tones. So, you have an aura, you have vibes that you give off. Ariel's good vibes,
Mhm.
go make a company, Ariel's good vibes. And
Mhm.
you could sell some cannabis stuff out there. But the idea is that everything is made up of vibrations, cymatics, tones, and frequencies. Even a computer that's processing input, processing and output, those are all ultimately vibrations. So
Mhm.
of the misery loves company, that vibration wants to seek its own vibration. It wants to align or
Right.
to
Yeah.
like a standing wave. So
But
a good vibe, more good vibes, and it's about spiraling upwards.
yes, and opposite is a bad vibe. But what's so perverse about the authority in the education system is that they want to push their bad vibes on people who are already having good vibes. That is something else. That is messed up.
It's demonic in a
It's
way. Yeah,
it
it's
is,
certainly.
yeah, it's certainly demonic, and we have people who are defending this demonic thing unwittingly, just because they're so used to it. They're like, teachers don't get paid enough. What are they getting paid to do? To put people into learn helplessness and make them broke?
Yeah. There's several layers of this. Like, we have an event coming up in Norwood this week for the Norwood teachers. It's called the Teacher of the Year.
Right.
And, I mean, we have to have empathy too for people in this system at the same time. I that if you're a really good teacher, you deserve recognition.
Yeah,
even
I
though
have no problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a saying by Shinryu Suzuki. He wrote a book under this title, "Not Always So." And that's an important Zen belief and understanding of the world. So, I mean, like, while we can hurl bricks at the teaching and the school system and this stuff, the little, like, the bricks that we took out of that little red brick schoolhouse, at the same time, we have to realize that we're not going to win any idea wars, which are the ultimate ones. Even higher is the spiritual. But we're not going to, because check us out. The teacher is the teacher of the material realm, but the preacher brings in both the material and the higher. So they're both teachers, just one has a T and a PR. But the idea is that we're not going to help anyone if we turn them off. You have to show them a better way.
Right. Well, open them up. Yeah. I'm just going to say, like, how are you?
By being in integrity, because integrity, again, is a mathematical principle, it's an architectural principle, and it's a vibrological principle. How much integrity, like, is that? So just like the laser has a very high integrity, how much integrity does the wave have? So if you're
intensity too.
And yes, in intensity or tension.
Intensity,
but the idea is, and density. Now let's focus.
10 seconds.
If you actually come from an internal outward vibrational state of integrity, it's not going to be assailable, and it's also going to be inspirational.
Okay. That's a better idea. But thank you, Nathan, because I tend to get kind of like mired in kind of like that trauma that happened for those kind of reasons. But I do want to do that. I kind of want to. That's why I like interviewing with people, to get kind of into that flow that I don't like. I can get the negative and make it positive. That's
a type of alchemy. But yeah, I mean, you and I are both at, just like everyone, we're all at where we're at in our evolution. Some of us in some lifetimes will go forward. Sometimes maybe we'll go back. Depends on our level of awareness. Depends on our certain life's karma. But no matter what that is, where you are now is where you're at. So maybe in a year you'll find that you've given up on talking shit about the schools, and each second that you spent talking shit is now replaced with a second of being productive, of being helpful, of being positive. And those things are far more attractive and useful than if we're talking shit. Shit is a negative vibe, and no one likes negative. That's what we seek to ameliorate. We seek to change that. But check us out. Lead, very heavy, very low vibes. Gold, basically light, very high vibes. So turning the low vibes into the high vibes, that's an alchemy right there. And I believe that you and I are getting that from this conversation as we speak. So that's one idea that we can take away from this.
Oh, thank you. Yes, and
it's what we do. I swear to God, I would be what you call a brother of the White Lodge. I am someone who is trying to improve things. I hope to God that I am serving the highest principles of all creation.
Hmm. That's very noble.
I'm
Yeah.
just where I'm coming from.
That's yeah. That's good to know. And if we can kind of not teach, but the people who are interested in these kind of higher vibes and getting rid of all of their, anger and pain and frustration, if we can just open up a door for them and and we can just say it's here for you. We're not going to force you into it if you want it. I think we'll be just like that force for light in the world.
That is very true. Think about like in any good relationship too. Like again, like it's because of any member of that comes together of their own free will and is not. If you're forced into it, there's a grudge beneath it all. There's
Right.
something that's wrong, and
Oh, yeah.
disharmonious, discordant, because
Right.
there's that kernel of
Yeah.
of untruth. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not very frequent. It's not very frequent that like you get like gang raped into a marriage, and then that turns out, oh, I love them now. There's, you know what I mean? I'm extremely vicious,
Yes.
but the point stands that it's not one that's built on mutual respect,
Oh.
empathy, and trust. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah.
may I just say, virtues equals vibes.
Hmm.
Virtue equal vibrations. What we think of as virtues, what you said, noble, maybe that's just a really high frequency. Maybe
Hmm.
that's why our highest endeavors are to raise to that level. And I know this is like these terms have been kind of wishy-washy about with, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still what they are.
Yeah, yeah, that because like remember when we first met in the autonomy course? I mean, I had no idea who you were, where you coming from. I just saw this symbol with a voice coming out of it. I didn't know what you looked like. And I'm like, oh, well, this is a pretty interesting guy. Let me just get to know him. None of that was forced. It was
Right.
all done voluntarily. And
Yeah.
here we are now.
My occult fan picture is pretty intense looking. I realize it's I'm wearing a leather, like I like my collars and ruffles and things like that to be up like that. And I think I'm like this in a picture. Like that's basically I'm like something like, yeah, if you can see it with the flames and the electricity and the energy, like it's basically like me going like this or something like that. Can you see it?
Oh,
Yeah,
hmm.
it's my face. So
It's
yeah,
your face?
that's my face. And
I didn't. Oh, I didn't
it's
see
me.
that.
The symbolism is me being calm, cool, and collected, calm, cool, and collected in the middle of what is supposed to be the energy that's bursting out of the Ark of the Covenant. So it's an electromagnetic fire energy, and it's what
Cool.
I call a holy energy because it's in the Ark of the Covenant. Like you saw, like it was too powerful for everyone at the end of that first Indiana Jones, the Crusaders movie, and that's the energy that's just me, and I'm being like enveloped in it, but I'm just like chilling, like no matter what's coming at me, I'm focused, I'm on my mission, and I'm gonna succeed no matter what. So
That's
that's
awesome.
what that means.
So it's like you're ready for anything. It's like you're, I don't know, prepared. That's pretty
I
cool.
was a Boy Scout. Speak of her. Yeah.
Right, preparedness. Yeah, you get your merit badges. I remember that. Yeah, I remember those things. But
Now I've got
yeah,
a now I've got a new merit badge. So you know what I mean.
right.
Serious. I've already in the past year, I've already had a few guys saying that they were looking for something in their life, and they seemed interested. And I said, go ask in your local area. And it's like it really seems to be something that helps people if that's what they're looking for.
Freemasonry?
And you would do it of your own free will. It's again,
Right.
I'm not gonna be like, hey,
Well,
join
well, that the word free is in there. Get it? Just
I might have an idea. I might
right.
have an idea.
Right, exactly, and that's what I did. I'm sorry, I would have wanted to pressure you into my server, but like I was saying, but it was okay. Is it like you have enough, and like I said, these are all voluntary. Everything we do, and
Exactly.
that's great.
It doesn't mean I won't in the future. It just means right now, dude, I don't even use half of the things that are on there. I turned off notifications for as many
Right.
of them. Like,
I can tell because there's a lot of like Richard said, noise. There's so much noise. And right here though with you as I'm talking, I just feel the signal. And that's what I feel like when I'm in autonomy. Just signal, just okay, this is gonna move me in the direction that I want to go to, and it's not a distraction. And we it's very hard to discern that when we're growing up sometimes.
yeah. Well, when we're young too, and more Pink Floyd, remember when you were young, you shone like the sun. The idea, I'm sorry, I'm just like having some like mini revelations. I gotta like
I
show
have
my,
those too. It's fine.
oh God, all the time, right?
Yeah.
I was just thinking like you shone like the sun, and we were talking about being younger and from the mouth of the babe and being of a much more pure, energetic.
Yes.
So I was like, what a fitting metaphor, because when you're younger, the vibrations are different. You are shining more. But anyways, the idea is this, besides Pink Floyd being like the best band ever, would be that when you're younger, I think I might be going off on a tangent now.
We've gone on several of those.
What was I just trying to respond to about being young? Did you say something?
I said it's very hard to discern signal from noise. Okay.
Thank you. So yeah, because when you're younger too, like so much is coming in, and you don't always have like the filters that are built up. Sometimes for good, but sometimes by trauma, sometimes by fears or ignorances that have been built upon by experiences that you haven't processed appropriately.
Yeah.
Some of that has to do with your ancestral lineage, and like there's 4 basic things that I've been learning about without saying like too much. The idea is like, you want to make peace with the 4 different parts of your, mom's mom, mom's dad, dad's mom, dad's dad. You want to make peace with that, but that's only 1/4 of it. There's other parts like your where you're living or where you've come from, like the built up meaning of that place, and the built up meaning of another one is what you've learned and your philosophies in the lineage that you come from. So I've joined Freemasonry. So all of the things that have come through Freemasonry, and there's so many different kinds too, like the Rite of Memphis, Mizraim, the ancient Memphis and Mizraim are 2 different ones that are joined.
It all sounds like an RPG video game. It all sounds very fascinating.
I think a lot of people would like identify with that life as like a video game, except life is not a video game in the sense that we are actually spiritual beings, not digital.
Yes. Yeah, we're not made out of pixels.
Well, ask those crazy quantum physics people who have every idea. They know. Am I having an epileptic fit or am I winking a lot? They have no idea what they're talking about. But yeah, so the reason I play acoustic guitar, and only acoustic guitar, and her name, by the way, is Alice.
Very nice. Alice in Wonderland.
You guys have probably noticed by now I have an Alice in Wonderland thing going. But the idea is that it's a real lived resonance. It's organic, and it's real, and it's pure. I have nothing wrong with electric guitar. Hendrix is one of my favorite people and artists and music ever. But I still, for myself, find it's eminently more simpatico to play something that I can feel the vibrational rhythms coming through, and it allows me to have a soul connection where with electric it might be a little bit different. That's just me, but that's what I feel. That's why I play acoustic only.
Yeah, no, to each their own, man. And like I don't know, one of my dreams in life, I'm going on a little tangent myself, but I think it was to become a pilot, because every single time I take a vacation, whether it was my parents or anything else, I just look out that window of a plane, and I would just be like mesmerized at like that kind of view. It's just something so spiritual about it. I could just sit in front of a plane window and stare out that window for hours with no problem.
There's reasons for that to do with like our position on Earth and where our soul comes from, but there's also, I can totally see you doing that. I think that will happen in your life. I think it will. I mean that. Like, just like I told you about guessing the girl's dress earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I get a distinct feeling that is in your life's path.
Wow.
Well, make it fucking happen and prove me right.
Uh-huh.
I don't like to be wrong about these things.
Right.
Fly to Norwood and come over and we'll do the lunch and it'll be nice. What is that thing?
Sure, I'd love to, because I just feel a sense like my favorite time was that when I was flying and I was doing that, and there was a guy from Sweden next to me, and we were just talking about his country and what goes on and just having a conversation. Then when he fell asleep, I looked out the window again, and I just had this sense of like calmness and happiness and fulfillment. And it was like there's no way I'd rather be than here. This is awesome.
Do
You
you
know?
know Pink Floyd song about written? It was off their 13th album, which is called "A Momentary Lapse of Reason." It was the big single from the album, and it's called "Learning to Fly." And it's all you can hear David Gilmour, the guitarist and singer, setting up his instruments in the piano at the beginning of the song in the background. I think you would love. That's probably it. Might be my favorite Pink Floyd song, but it's really wonderful, and I think that would be like your Pink Floyd song as a pilot.
Yeah,
So
man, that would be cool. I'd have it playing in the background when I'm up in the air. It would
you
be
have to.
like, yeah,
You have
I got to, man. Yeah, yeah, and then like I can drop all the baggage. I'm light as air. I don't have to be thinking
no,
about the
no
education
pun,
system.
no pun intended with the airline.
Right, with the baggage stuff, exactly. Put in baggage claim.
Exactly.
There you go. It all
You know,
comes full circle. I don't know.
that's because everything is in infinity.
Right.
Kate Bush has a song that she literally sings the numbers of pi. I encourage people to check that out. One other thing. Here's a pro tip I learned. This is one of those gentleman techniques. On a plane, if you're sitting next to someone and you want to talk with them, always wait till the halfway point. Why? Because if the conversation goes awkwardly or whatever, then you at least only have half the trip to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So always wait till the halfway point.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. This is amazing. But anyway, I think I gotta get going and finish some of my stuff and edit this video.
Yeah.
But this was a pleasure, man. I always have a good time. Yeah.
I wasn't trying to like do that to you either. I was just like
Peace.
2 hours, yeah. But symbols, yeah. I've enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay.
More coffee and smoke my whatever.
Excellent. I'll see you back in the autonomy server most likely.
All right, Elliot. Very likely. Have a great day, bud.